Picture this, a queen, draped in jewels and silks, seated on the most powerful throne in Europe. Her word is law, her empire vast, and her name whispered with a mix of awe and fear across the continent. This is Queen Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen Gloriana. But behind the magnificent portraits and the thunderous applause, there lies a silence so profound it echoes through history. This isn't just a story about power and politics. It's the story of a woman who ruled the world, but did so utterly and completely alone. From the very beginning, Elizabeth's life was a masterclass in survival. Imagine being just 2 years old when your own father, King Henry VIII, orders your mother's execution. Anne Boleyn was gone and little Elizabeth was declared illegitimate. Her world wasn't one of fairy tales and loving parents. It was a treacherous landscape of shifting loyalties and deadly court intrigue. She learned early on that trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. Every smile could hide a dagger, and every ally could become an enemy overnight. This constant state of alert, this need to be smarter, faster, and more cautious than everyone around her, forged her into the formidable ruler she became. But it also built walls around her heart, brick by painful brick. When she finally ascended the throne at 25, the pressure was immense. England was a fractured nation, torn by religious conflict and threatened by foreign powers like Spain and France. The question on everyone's lips was, who will she marry? For a female monarch, marriage wasn't just a personal choice. It was the ultimate political tool. A husband could provide a military alliance, secure the succession with an heir, and lend a masculine authority to her reign. The English Parliament, her advisors, and foreign ambassadors all pushed, pleaded, and plotted to see her wed. And the suitors came in droves. There was Philip II of Spain, her former brother-in-law, a powerful Catholic monarch. There were French princes, the Valois brothers, offering an alliance against Spain. There were handsome Swedish kings and ambitious German dukes. And then there were her own subjects, most notably Robert Dudley, the Earl of Leicester. He was her childhood friend, her master of the horse, and by all accounts, the great love of her life. The chemistry between them was undeniable. They shared a deep, personal connection that went far beyond courtly flirtation. He was the one person with whom she could almost let her guard down. So why didn't she marry him? Or anyone? The answer is as complex as Elizabeth herself. Marrying a foreign prince meant potentially subjecting England to foreign influence. Marrying an English nobleman like Dudley would have ignited furious jealousy among the other courtiers, potentially leading to civil unrest. Dudley himself was a complicated figure, his own wife having died under mysterious circumstances. A marriage to him would have been a scandal. But more than any political calculation, Elizabeth understood one thing with chilling clarity: to marry was to surrender power. In the 16th century, a wife was her husband's property. A queen who married a king or even a prince consort would be expected to defer to him. Her authority, so painstakingly won, would be compromised. Every suitor represented a threat not just to her throne but to her very self, and so she played the game. She dangled the possibility of her hand in marriage for decades, using it as a brilliant diplomatic weapon. She flirted, she negotiated, she kept all of Europe guessing. She turned her single status from a perceived weakness into her greatest strength. But what was the personal cost of this political masterstroke? Imagine the endless nights in a cold, vast palace. While her courtiers went home to their families, to warmth and intimacy, the queen retired to her chambers, accompanied only by her ladies-in-waiting and the weight of an empire. She called herself married to England, and in many ways she was. The nation was her spouse, her child, her everything. But a nation cannot hold your hand in the dark. It cannot share a private joke or soothe your fears. Her speeches were filled with declarations of love for her people, and it was genuine. But it was the love of a mother for her subjects, not the love of an equal partner. She had advisers, like the brilliant William Cecil, whom she trusted implicitly with matters of state. She had her flock of sheep, her ladies-in-waiting, for female companionship. She had Dudley, a constant, complicated presence at her side for most of her life. Yet, in the things that truly mattered, the life-and-death decisions, the burden of the crown, she had no equal. There was no one who could truly understand the crushing weight she carried every single day. This profound isolation shaped her personality. She developed a famously sharp wit and a fiery temper, both used as defense mechanisms. She poured her energy into governance, into art, into creating a golden age. Her court became a dazzling theater, and she was the star performer, always on stage. The magnificent gowns, the intricate wigs, the white lead makeup, it was all part of a carefully constructed mask. It was the image of the Virgin Queen, a semi-divine figure, untouched and untouchable. This image kept her safe, but it also kept her separate. As the years wore on, the question of the succession became a looming shadow. Without an heir of her own body, the future of the Tudor dynasty rested on her alone. This was perhaps her greatest sacrifice. The choice not to have children, the natural desire of so many women, was a conscious political decision. She knew the dangers of a disputed succession. She had lived through it. By refusing to name an heir until the very end, she kept her own power secure, preventing factions from forming around her potential successor. But it meant facing her own mortality with the knowledge that her direct line would end with her. In her final years, the loneliness seemed to deepen. Her old friends and trusted advisors, including Dudley and Cecil, had passed away. A new generation of ambitious young men, like the Earl of Essex, vied for her favor, but they couldn't replace the companions who had known her for decades. The famous story of her refusing to go to bed in her last days, standing for hours until she finally collapsed, speaks volumes. It's as if she was afraid to finally let go, to surrender to the final, ultimate solitude of death. Elizabeth I was a paradox. She was a woman of immense strength who was also profoundly vulnerable. She was a ruler who commanded absolute loyalty but had no one to command her own heart. She chose power over partnership, survival over personal comfort, and an empire over an heir. Her reign was a triumph, a golden age that forever defined England's national identity. But it was a triumph achieved in silence, a victory won on a lonely throne. History remembers her as Gloriana, the great queen, but we should also remember her as Elizabeth, the woman who ruled the world, but slept with enemies in her thoughts, and carried the weight of a crown that could never fill the emptiness beside her. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story of Elizabeth's hidden life as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button, and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of history's most compelling figures. Let me know in the comments what you think was Elizabeth's greatest sacrifice. See you next time.